Hello, my Italian food fanatics. Today, we're going to make a chicken scallopini with cremini mushrooms, bell peppers, capers, and a little bit of garlic, some shallots in there. We're going to deglaze with some white wine, put some chicken stock in there. It is going to be absolutely out of this world. And we'll put them in a big platter, kind of like what you would do if you were making this for your loved ones, for your family, and for your friends. So, you already saw me probably plate it up, and you saw it in the platter. I mean, how beautiful is that? Now, before we go into the kitchen, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell, and share, leave a comment. And let's not waste any time. Let's get into the kitchen so I can show you how to make this not only delicious, but also absolutely beautiful recipe. Chicken scallopini with sautéed vegetables. It's gonna be 2 thumbs up. Siskel and Ebert, 2 thumbs up. Anyway, see you in the kitchen. All right, let's get started. For our chicken scallopini with our mushrooms, bell peppers, and capers, we're going to need a couple of things. First of all, for the chicken, we're going to need some flour and some salt. And I will come back in a moment after I'm done showing you the ingredients for the sauce to fabricate the chicken. We'll be back in a second. For our sauce, we're going to use 100% extra virgin organic California olive oil. We'll use some butter to finish off the sauce to make it silky smooth. We have some white wine. We have some capers that have been drained. I don't rinse them. I like the brine. We have some chicken stock, and then some of our vegetables here. Bell peppers. We have some parsley, some shallots, some onions, and one of the stars of our vegetables, we have some cremini mushrooms. So between these 3, the bell peppers, the capers, the mushrooms, and of course the garlic and the shallots, we're going to make a sauce to die for. All right, I'm going to fabricate these, and we will be back. All right, besides our wine and capers and things like that that are really not in need of fabrication, here are cremini mushrooms. I have washed them. It's okay to wash mushrooms. They're mostly water anyway. What causes mushrooms to go black is when you irritate the skin, and that becomes oxidized. That's what does it. Washing does not do that to the mushrooms. So it's safe to wash them. And then I cut them in relatively the same thicknesses. Here's some of the chopped parsley. And of course we have our garlic and our shallots, very finely minced. And also our red bell peppers. They have been cut into small batons like this. All right, relatively the same size. So they'll cook evenly. That's the key. Everything should be about the same size so that they do cook evenly. Obviously, the bell peppers and the mushrooms are going to cook at a different rate, but we'll get to that in just a moment. So now we need to turn our attention to the chicken and make some scallopini. We'll be right back. All right, here we are with our chicken breasts. Now, these need to be cleaned of the sinews and the other undesirable parts. Like, for example, I don't like little blood in there. Whatever that is, that's going to come out. And then these, and also this little piece, this little blood here. And you have to check for bones and these undesirable areas as well. And so consequently, I'm going to trim those, and I will be right back. Okay, we've removed all of the sinews and the undesirable parts here. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to cut this on an angle into 3 pieces, just like this. Now obviously one's going to be a smaller piece, but that's okay. That's fine. For our purposes, that's going to be all right. That's not an issue. So there we go. And now we're going to pound these down to make them flat and to make scallopinis out of them, essentially. Very, very thin, and we're going to cook them at extremely high heat and very, very quickly. All right, let me be back. I'll be back with and we'll make the scallop. All right, as you can see, we now have these little pieces that I've cut off in between 2 pieces of plastic wrap, and we're going to take a meat pounder and we are going to gently, I'm not going to do it with the camera going because it's going to shake everything, but you want to gently pound these down into scallopinis. So I'll be back when that's all right. As you can see, they've been pounded down and they're relatively thin. They're not paper thin, but they're very, very thin. And that's exactly what we're looking for, scallopini. All right, I'll put them on a plate, and we're gonna flour them and go to the stove. See you in a second. All right, here are the scallopinis. Before we dredge in the flour, I'm gonna season them. I like to season the meat with only salt. I don't like to season the flour. I think that's a waste, because you don't use all the flour gets thrown out. So why season the flour? Why not just season the meat? Turn these over like this and season the other side as well. All right, our flour, this is not rocket science, so I'm not going to take a lot of time and do this. All you do, you flour both sides, you knock off any excess, and they're ready to go into the pan, just like that. All right, so we'll now go to the stove. All right, we're on the flame now. I have a saute pan on. I've put a generous amount of olive oil in there, and we are getting it smoking hot. You can see that it is beginning to smoke, and in a couple of seconds, we'll be ready to put our scallopinis in. All right, now we're going to make the sauce. Put a little bit of olive oil inside the pan. Of course, I'm generous with the olive oil. And we'll wait for this to come up to temperature. We'll wait for it to smoke. And then we're going to add in our mushrooms with a little bit of salt. I'll be right back. All right, our oil is up to temperature. Now I'm going to add in our mushrooms. And of course some salt. And what that does is that will draw out the moisture, because what we want to do is cook the water out and concentrate the flavors. So you just leave them alone. You don't have to move them at all. Everything will be just fine. I'll come back when we're going to add our shallots and our bell peppers. Just wanted to show you really quickly. You see, it's just been about a minute, and already the mushrooms have shrunk down. They begin to lose their water and concentrate their flavors. So what seemed like a lot of mushrooms at first ends up being very little. Anyway, I'll be back. All right, our mushrooms have cooked down a little bit. We're going to add in our shallots and our bell pepper. And we're going to cook these until they get a little bit of color as well. Red bell peppers are always better with a little bit of color on them. I'll be back. We'll be back. Okay, you'll notice how we have a little bit of color on the vegetables, including the red bell peppers. You can see right there, that's all flavor. That color on the red bell peppers makes them taste out of this world. In fact, the combination here of shallots, bell peppers, and mushrooms is out of this world. Now we're going to add in our capers and also our garlic. And we're just going to cook that until it's somewhat fragrant. All right? We don't want to cook it too much. A little bit of saute action. So we'll cook that until it's fragrant, which happens pretty quickly. Let me get this stuff off of the spoon. You want it in the pot, not in the spoon. In fact, let me get this spatula here. So, about 30 seconds to a minute, I can smell the capers. I mean, I love the smell of capers. And that's also the reason why I added very little salt, is because the capers do have salt, and I don't rinse the capers. I'm not really a proponent of that. Anyway, so now we'll add our wine, and we're going to reduce that down. And scrape up any bits that may be on the sides like this, or on the bottom of the pan, because this is all flavor, and we don't want to forego that. All right, we'll reduce this down until it's almost nothing, and then we'll come back and add our stock. And in a very short while, especially for you, we'll be ready for service. Okay, you can see how our wine is reduced down, and now it's time to add our stock. It's becoming very, very viscous. Look how beautiful that is. Now we'll add in our stock, and we'll let this reduce down until we get a nice consistency, and then we will finish it with a little bit of butter. I'll be back. This has to come up to temperature. It's going to be a little while, about 10 minutes. All right, as you can see, our sauce has reduced down, or the stock has reduced down, and it's becoming somewhat thicker, okay? This is the perfect time. We don't want to lose any more liquid. We're going to turn this off. We're going to wait a second for it to stop boiling, and then we are going to take a little bit of butter and swirl it in. Okay? It's a couple of tablespoons. That's the perfect amount for this sauce. Makes it a little bit noisy when I do that. But here we go. What that does is that lends a silkiness to the sauce, as you can see. It gives it a shine, and it finishes it off with a flavor that's very, very, it's impossible to replicate that flavor. Butter is a beautiful thing. It was Paul Bocuse's favorite thing was butter, number one. If Paul Bocuse liked it, I mean, how sweet it is. And now we're ready to dish this up. What we're going to do is I'm going to place the scallopinis back into the pan for just a few minutes. I'm going to cover this, and that way they're going to heat up a little bit, and then we'll dish it all up. I'll be right back. We're back. As you can see, I have a cover on the pan, and you can do the same thing. If you're waiting for service, or you're waiting for guests or what have you, you can make this somewhat in advance. Put the scallopinis back in the saute pan, cover it, and let them heat through, get a little bit warm, and then you can serve them up without worry of them getting cold or anything like that. In fact, Italian food sometimes tastes better when it's warm as opposed to it being hot. So let's dish it up. Hello, my Italian food fanatics. Well, you saw me put it in the bowl at the beginning of the video. Here it is. Now, obviously, I'm not going to eat it right out of the bowl. That would be kind of crude. But what I will do is I'm going to take some and I'm going to put it here in this other bowl that I have, and we'll give it a taste test and see if it's any good. I'm going to put a little bit of sauce on there. And I got some friends coming over a little bit later. We're going to have that for dinner. So let's taste and see. Now, I love scallopini, and and that's no different. Wow. Now, obviously, scallopini is easy to cut. It's tender. It's not going to be very, very juicy because the chicken is so thin. But the crust that it forms, we put a little bit of color on. Excuse me. We put a little bit of color on there. Wow, is that good. You taste the capers, obviously the parsley and the bell peppers and the vegetables, these mushrooms. Wow. The Cremini mushrooms, they have a flavor to them that's slightly better than the white mushrooms. Then, of course, you can taste the garlic in there, the shallots, the wine, the reduction. The chicken stock. And then the butter makes that sauce beautifully viscous, shiny, silky, velvety. Oh, wait. Before I forget, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, hit the bell button so you know when I release another video. Share with your friends. Leave a comment down below. And if you make something that I've inspired you to do, please send it to me on Instagram at Chef Argenti, and I'll feature you and the picture of your dish in a future episode of Italian Food Fanatics. There's a lot going on here, and there's a lot to making this. However, it's not beyond your abilities, all right? Even the most complicated recipe is not impossible. This is nowhere near complicated. There's just a lot of moving pieces, but you can do it, all right? Look how beautiful the platter was. Imagine that serving to your loved ones and your friends, your family. When they see that, they're going to go nuts. And then, when they taste it, they're going to go double nuts because it is phenomenal. Now, you'll think that there were too many vegetables, but they cook down. And I'll tell you what, I'd rather have a larger amount of vegetables along with the meat than the opposite way around. That's far more Italian than the opposite way, because the Italians, especially the Southern Italians, were masters of of raising vegetables and also of vegetable cookery. So why not honor that tradition if you're so inclined? And then look at the platter. We eat with our eyes. I mean, I want another piece right now. Anyway, I'm going to let you go. Wherever you're in the world, thank you very, very much for taking the time to watch my videos. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful day, no matter where you are and no matter what you're doing. And I hope that you're following your passion. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.